What's up everyone, Carlin Atkinson here from the Ventrac dual wheel tool. And since the release of the Ventrac 4520, there is no longer any built-in storage options for the Ventrac. So in its place, Ventrac offers two different style toolboxes that mount to the ROPS bar, a large one and a small one. On the 4500 and older machines, there used to be a toolbox on the right side of the tractor. That is no longer the case because that area is now taken up with the hydraulic cooler as well as the controls on the 4520. In this video, we are going to go over the differences between the large toolbox and the small toolbox and hopefully help you decide which one is the best fit for your machine. Both toolboxes bolt onto the ROPS bar and come with all the hardware and simple instructions on how to install them. It takes about 5 minutes, which I'll show you in a second here. Both of them are fastened with this bungee cord to keep them in place. And then you can actually just lift your toolbox right out of the bracket and take it with you to the front of the machine or your truck or whatever you need to work on. And then they just drop in and you re-hook up the bungee cord and you are good to go. The large toolbox is pretty standard. It has a little compartment on the top that is easy to access without actually opening the whole toolbox. I end up not actually storing much in here because you can lose it even with the bungee on, but it is a nice spot to put a small wrench or something like that that you need quick access to. And then on the inside of the toolbox, it comes with a screwdriver tray, which is super handy. I store pliers, a couple various things, including extra stump grinding teeth when I'm out stump grinding, etc. And then with the large toolbox, it actually is large enough to store things like a small socket set, extra belts, and that kind of thing. I love it for those sorts of things. I even store a small saw, which is super helpful if you're brush cutting or something like that. Now, one thing about the large toolbox is that since it's behind you, you're not able to actually access the toolbox from the seat of the tractor, which usually is not a problem, but sometimes it is really handy to be able to access things while actually mowing or running the equipment. The other thing about the large toolbox, I have it mounted as low as possible because of visibility reasons. So when you're backing up the tractor and you're looking behind you, it blocks your field of view just slightly down towards the ground, which usually is not a problem unless you're trying to back up in really tight corners, but it does hinder the view just a little bit. The other thing about the large toolbox that is important to note is that because of where it's mounted, when you fold the ROPS bar down, it actually ends up hitting the toolbox. So if you are mowing and you want your ROPS bar folded down to get underneath trees and that kind of thing, then you will have to remove the large toolbox in order to make that happen. All right, the small toolbox on the other hand mounts to the side of the machine here on your right side. And the cool part about the small toolbox is that you're able to actually access the toolbox from the seat of the tractor. So it makes it super handy to stow things like a snack, like a granola bar or something like that. And the frame of this toolbox actually includes a small phone slot. And on the 4520 machines, you actually have a USB Type A charger. Super handy if you're out on the field all day and you need to be able to charge your phone. There's an included phone slot for you, and the charger is right down here. One thing to note about the small toolbox, again, it hinders your field of view just a little bit, depending on where you're turning when you're backing up, especially. It does hinder your view. The other thing to note is that if you have a larger kind of thermos or something that you want to put in your cup holder, depends where you have this toolbox mounted, it actually makes it a pretty tight fit to get your thermos or cup, whatever you have, your coffee, in and out of that, which can be a slight pain. You get used to it, but just keep note of that. If you have a really big thermos, it's probably not going to fit if you have the smaller toolbox. So for the smaller toolbox, it actually is pretty small, so it's hard to fit a bunch of things in. What I store in it is a flashlight, earplugs, things that I want to access from the seat of the tractor. I do store my dual wheel tool in the smaller one. I also have some WD-40 and some things like that. But then in the larger toolbox, that's where I stow things such as my extra belts, a socket set, a bungee cord, those kinds of things. And in the tray, a few extra parts for my stump grinder a pliers, etc. And these are things I don't need to access as often or from the seat of the tractor. But with the larger toolbox, it actually is big enough where I can store some of those larger items. Each kit comes with everything you need, all your bolts and parts and everything. Very straightforward to install. And so what we're going to do is there's a larger, thicker piece of metal here, and we kind of put that on first with these U-hooks, and then the toolbox frame or mount goes against this. This thicker metal here is so that it doesn't bend anything, protects your ROPS bar and the frame of your toolbox. Then this here slides onto your 4 bolts. Screw your nuts on. And then once you have it in the position that you're happy with, you torque your nuts down and you are done. You don't want to over tighten these because you want to protect your ROPS bar, and they have locking nuts, and it's a nice solid frame for your toolbox. Once you have that in place, then you're ready to stow the toolbox in and you're set to go. The process for installing both the large and the small toolbox are the same, so I'll only show installing the large one. All right, so for the size, we have an inside measurement of about 7 inches wide by 13 inches, give or take a little bit, long. And it is around 7.5 inches deep, not counting your screwdriver tray. Once you drop that in, you're only going to have about 6 inches of space in the bottom compartment. For the small toolbox, it is inside about 4.5 inches by 9 3/4 inches. And the depth is right around 6 inches. As far as which toolbox is right for you, my favorite of the two is the larger toolbox, simply because it's more versatile with its added capacity. And even then, it is a pretty small toolbox, so you're not going to fit things like, you know, a breaker bar or something like that in it unless you get one of those compacting or telescopic ones. So you're limited to what you can store. Now, the nice thing about the smaller toolbox is that you can access it from the seat. I think that's one of the main benefits, along with the cell phone holder. So it really comes down to what you're trying to stow with you on the machine. I think for most people, the larger toolbox is going to be the best option, unless you need that cell phone holder to charge your phone, or, you know, some granola bars or something like that. Because it's so small, it's hard to fit anything that's real meaningful actually in the toolbox, aside from the dual wheel tool, of course. But most things you're not going to be able to store in the small toolbox. If you're unsure which one to get, you can get both. And that's what I do. I run both of them, and both of them come in handy. Each have their own place. I really like the cell phone holder, and I like the added capacity of the larger toolbox.